A few weeks ago, I released a video that said, don't make the same mistake that I made with my fig tree, where I had let it grow and it got really out of hand. This tree was massive. If you want to see that video and how I took it from this huge overgrown tree and got it down to here, I'll put a link for that video right here. All right, before you go off and watch that video, let's talk about what's going on with this fig tree right now. Right here, we definitely have some little figs starting to come out, and it's going to get ready to start producing more figs. But the tree wants to go through a extreme growth phase. Because I cut down so much of the tree, it now is getting sunlight on different parts of the trunk that normally didn't get light. So now the tree feels as though it needs to start growing because it's exposed to the sunlight, it's getting that warmth. So it's putting out a lot of shoots everywhere. This is why it's so important to do regular maintenance on your trees. This isn't a set it and forget it. This is a living organism that's going to grow and do what it wants. So you need to go ahead and keep track of it and kind of guide it in the way you want it to be. I don't get to pick exactly where it's throwing out new shoots on this branch, but what I can do is start cutting off the ones that I don't want. Now, with this lean over method, you normally want to go about every 12 inches or so. You want to leave one of these shoots coming up, so that way it can grow and you'll get fruit off of each one of those limbs, but they're not so close together that they will shade out each other and only put growth into growing higher to get sunlight. It will allow them to have enough space to collect enough energy from the sun to produce figs. These are only going to shoot straight up and try to get as high as they can to gather as much sunlight as they can. So these are the ones we really want to get rid of because they won't be beneficial. They're going to end up hindering this other tree or this other branch by taking energy into upright growth versus growth that will produce figs. The nice thing with these is that they are really small, so it's very simple to just pop these off. You don't need to use clippers on these. They will just like that, they twist right off and it's gone. Now I don't have to worry about this putting growth into this branch, and I can go ahead and move on to the next one, which I want this one to be the one that grows, but I have about 4 or 5 little shoots coming out here. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove these other little ones. So that way it only focuses on one branch growing instead of 4 or 5 different branches trying to come out of this one single stalk. All right, so I know my hand is about 9 inches from pinky to thumb, and I wanna be about a foot or so away. So I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling everything that's popping up that is too close together. So from right here, if you can see, this one is the one that I just kept. And then I want to go about 9 inches. So this one right here will be the one I'm going to keep. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one on this bottom side. We don't need that. Now be sure not to just throw these away. There's a lot of nutrients and hormones in here which will allow us to make a really good fertilizer. It's called fermented plant juice, and I actually have made videos on this before. So if you want to see that, I'll go ahead and leave a link to it, but don't just throw these down or throw them into the compost pile. This has a lot more hormones in it than other things because this is that fresh new growth. So you can actually harness this to make good fertilizer for all of your plants. I would have done this previously with the tree the previous years. I wouldn't have had such a massive pruning that I had to do on the tree earlier this spring. So by doing regular maintenance, when I come out here and walk the garden and check on my trees, if I would have just done this, just picked off all these extra growth ones that I don't need, I would be in a lot better position than I am right now, where I would have a better shaped tree and a tree that is going to produce figs for me without me having to put in as much work. So learn from my mistakes and come do this every week or so. Just when you go out into the garden, just walk by, look at it, see if it's putting on growth in places you don't want, and just pull them off when they're nice and easy and little like this. Now you'll get ones that are at a weird spacing. So this is 9 inches between these ones, but it's probably 1.5 feet between these two. So that's kind of up to you, and you have to make that hard decision. Do you want to allow this one to grow? I'm not going to, because both of them are on the same side of the tree. If it was on this side, maybe I would allow it to grow and see how it does compared to this one over here, but it's too close. It's 9 inches. I'd rather space it out a little bit further, because this fig tree does produce fairly large leaves. So I think by giving it more than the 12 inches, it'll be fine. Because of the large leaves, it will create a good shadow, and the tree will still be able to suck up as much energy as it needs from the sun. So these ones can go. And just to continue on with what I was saying about the spacing and picking which ones, I'm gonna get rid of them on this side because that's where this one is. So these two can go, and then there are two branches. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this bottom one. I want the one that's more upright on the top, which means this one can go, and then that's where we start hitting the fork where a lot more branching is happening. Even though the branches are growing and I'll see lots of little figs on them, it doesn't mean that they'll actually make it to maturity and ripen because there's so many of them on the tree. And I care about quality over quantity, because if this tree were to produce 1,000 figs, but they're either small or they don't ripen and I only get maybe 20 figs out of it, it wasn't worth it. I would rather cut it, not get 1,000 figs, maybe get 100, 200 figs off this tree, but I get all of them and they're of really good quality because the tree was able to focus its energy on just that limited amount. The other thing I'm going to go ahead and do now is go ahead and start removing the tips of some of these branches where I can tell this branch is starting to curve upright. So I want to prevent it from throwing a lot of energy into growth that would be vertical and I wouldn't get figs off of it. So by taking this off, it's going to put energy into growth sideways, and then that will also allow for more figs to come off of that branching, this branching limb. So this is the result you get from tipping a branch. You'll get more growth out of it, which will help you in getting more fruit. But it is a nice, fairly straight branch. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in the ground and cut off all the leaves, and hopefully it'll root in a different place where maybe I'll get more figs from cutting off this tree. Hopefully, we'll see. And if you're having a hard time being motivated to do it,